In the heart of Canada's prairies, a shocking crime exposed the dark side of power, privilege, and domestic rage. This is the story of Colin Thatcher, a wealthy politician turned convicted killer, and the brutal murder of his ex-wife, JoAnn Wilson. A case that gripped a nation and left haunting questions about justice. Born into Saskatchewan's political elite, he was a millionaire rancher, a former provincial cabinet minister, and a man accustomed to getting his way. His father, Ross Thatcher, had been Saskatchewan's premier in the 1960s, embedding the family in the province's power structure. Having met as students at the University of Iowa, Colin Thatcher and his former wife JoAnn were married on August 12, 1962. After their marriage, they returned to Saskatchewan. They took up residence in Moose Jaw. Mr. Thatcher, the son of a one-time member of Parliament and Premier of Saskatchewan, developed over the years an active and successful career as rancher, farmer, and politician, serving for a time as Minister of Energy and Mines in a progressive conservative government of Saskatchewan. 3 children, Greg, Reagan, and Stephanie, were born of the marriage. Thatcher admitted to infidelity during the course of the marriage. The couple separated in August 1979. Colin and JoAnn married young, but their relationship quickly soured. Thatcher's political career was rising in the early 80s, but his personal life was unraveling. His marriage to JoAnn Wilson had become a battleground, one that would escalate into a real-life tragedy. The couple separated in August 1979. JoAnn, taking the 2 youngest children with her, left Moose Jaw with Mr. Thatcher's best friend, Ron Graham. Relations between the estranged spouses became increasingly bitter and acrimonious as they fought a long, hotly contested series of custody, access, and matrimonial property battles. Colin Thatcher became obsessed. At one juncture, he spirited Reagan out of the country and was found in contempt and ordered to pay a substantial fine. JoAnn's matrimonial property entitlement was initially held to amount to $820,000, but the judgment was immediately appealed. In 1980, the Thatchers were divorced. Friends described Colin as controlling and volatile, while JoAnn sought independence. By 1980, she filed for divorce, sparking a vicious custody battle over their 3 children. In January 1981, JoAnn married Mr. Tony Wilson and moved into a house located across the street from the legislative buildings in Regina. JoAnn's diary entries later revealed her terror. Colin said he would kill me before letting me win. On the evening of Sunday, May 17, 1981, JoAnn Wilson was shot and wounded while in the kitchen of her home. A bullet fired from a high-powered rifle passed through a triple-glazed glass window and struck her in the shoulder. She was hospitalized for about 3 weeks. The evidence was that JoAnn Wilson was terrified by this attempt on her life. After the shooting, she gave up her right to custody of Reagan, and a year later, agreed to accept approximately 1/2 of the original court award, spread over 5 years. No one was charged with the May 17, 1981 incident. At about 6 o'clock in the evening of January 21, 1983, JoAnn Wilson came home, drove into the garage of her home, and was ferociously beaten and then shot to death. 27 wounds were inflicted on her head, neck, hands, and lower legs. The injuries included a broken arm, a fracture of the wrist, and a severed little left finger. A single bullet entered her skull, causing death. Mr. Craig Dotson testified as to the finding of the body. He stated that he left work at the legislative building shortly before 6 p.m. on January 21, 1983, and was walking home when he noted a green car with a female driver turn into the garage at the Wilson residence. He continued walking for about a block. He heard loud, shrill screams behind him. He turned back to investigate. He heard a single, loud, sharp noise, and then silence. As he approached a lane near the Wilson garage, he saw a man emerge from the garage. He did not pay any particular attention. It was dark. He was 30 to 40 feet from the individual. He walked a little further and saw a body in a pool of blood on the floor of the garage. During their investigation, immediately following the killing, the police found a Shell Oil credit card receipt lying on top of the snow some 8 feet from the southeast door of the garage. The receipt bore what appeared to be the signature of Colin Thatcher. The owner of the service station confirmed the purchase by Mr. Thatcher of gasoline from J&M Shell Service in Caron, Saskatchewan on January 18, 1983. Within hours, police focused on Colin. His alibi? He claimed he was shopping for light bulbs, but receipts placed him near JoAnn's home. A witness reported seeing his truck parked nearby. Then came the bombshell, a manuscript titled "Murder Appeal" found in Colin's desk, detailing a fictional murder eerily similar to JoAnn's. Colin Thatcher wasn't just any suspect. He was a member of the Saskatchewan Legislative Assembly. The manuscript was a smoking gun. It described luring a victim with a fake emergency, attacking them in a garage. Even the weapon matched. This wasn't a novel, it was a confession. On May 7, 1984, Colin Thatcher was arrested and charged with causing the death of his ex-wife, JoAnn K. Wilson. After a 14-day trial before judge and jury, Thatcher stood trial for first-degree murder. The prosecution painted him as a vengeful ex-husband. Appellant was arrested and charged with causing the death of his ex-wife. Following their separation in 1979 after 17 years of marriage, the relation between the estranged spouses became increasingly bitter and acrimonious as they fought a long, hotly contested series of custody, access, and matrimonial property battles. On January 21, 1983, appellant's ex-wife was ferociously beaten and then shot to death. At trial, the Crown led direct and circumstantial evidence to prove that the appellant had personally murdered his ex-wife, or, alternatively, that he aided or abetted the killer, and was therefore guilty as a party to the offense pursuant to S-21 of the Criminal Code. The bulk of the evidence tendered by the Crown was consistent with either theory. In his charge, the trial judge instructed the jurors that the appellant could be found guilty of murder if they were satisfied, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he was the principal offender or a party to the offense under S-21 of the Code. He explained briefly the position of the defense and spent considerable time summarizing the Crown's evidence. The Crown presented 2 factually inconsistent theories: that the appellant actually killed the deceased, or that he aided and abetted the killer. The overwhelming mass of the evidence against the appellant, however, was consistent with both theories and pointed only to his participation in the murder. The jury could not have been convinced beyond a reasonable doubt of one theory to the exclusion of the other, but must have been convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the appellant participated in the murder, either as principal or aider and abetter. Although alternative theories of culpability were advanced by the Crown, there were ample grounds for the jury to find appellant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, while remaining unsure whether he had committed the murder himself or through another person. But there may be cases where the interrelationship between competing Crown theories and the evidence adduced in relation thereto will not justify a verdict of guilt. In each case, therefore, it will be for the trial judge, having regard to the nature of the offense, the theories of the parties, and the totality of the evidence, to realistically assess the possibility that the evidence will be used improperly, and to direct the jury accordingly. The present, however, is not such a case. Short breakdown of partial evidence in the case, due to there are too many witnesses and too much information to go through. One trial witness testified they observed a blue car parked opposite, a block west of the Wilson residence, on the 3 afternoons preceding the killing. The car was placed so that it could command an unobstructed view of the Wilson garage. It was occupied by a single male. The witness decided to look at the license but could only read the numbers, as the letters were covered with mud. They memorized the numbers 292 and repeated and wrote them down. The occupant of the vehicle was described as a relatively young male of medium build with a beard, wearing a toque, and what appeared to be rubber or surgical gloves. A police composite of the person the witness described did not fit Mr. Thatcher. One of the admissions of fact made on behalf of the accused was this: a 1980 Olds Delta 88 automobile bearing Saskatchewan license plate KDW 292 and owned by the government of Saskatchewan, was on January 10, 1983, checked out from the Central Vehicle Agency Regina to W. Colin Thatcher and remained checked out to him until it was picked up by the Regina City Police on January 27, 1983. During trial, according to expert police testimony, JoAnn Wilson was probably struck in the head with a .38 Special Plus P aluminum-jacketed 95-grain bullet manufactured by Winchester. The bullet was probably fired from a .38 Special or .357 Magnum Ruger revolver. The murder weapon was never found. Evidence was found that Colin Thatcher purchased a .357 caliber Ruger revolver from a gun shop in Palm Springs, California. Ronald Williams, gun shop owner, testified that on January 29, 1982, he sold Colin Thatcher a .357 caliber Ruger revolver. Thatcher picked up the gun along with a holster and ammunition on February 20, 1982. The ammunition consisted of 2 boxes of Winchester Western .38 caliber Special Plus P silver tip hollow point shells and 2 bags of reloaded ammunition. The Winchester ammunition had a bullet with an aluminum jacket and a lead core. The jury deliberated for just 10 hours. Verdict: guilty. Thatcher was sentenced to life in prison, with no parole for 25 years. Thatcher maintained his innocence, claiming he was framed by political enemies. Supporters argued the evidence was circumstantial, yet in 2006, he was granted parole, a decision that outraged JoAnn's family and the public. He's a murderer. Walking free is a slap in the face to JoAnn's memory. JoAnn's diary entries were dismissed as dramatic until it was too late. Colin Thatcher, now in his 80s, lives quietly in Saskatchewan. JoAnn's family still fights to keep her memory alive. In the end, this isn't just a story about a murder. It's about power, injustice, and a woman who dared to defy a man who refused to lose. Decades later, the case remains a cautionary tale. Did Colin act alone? Was there a hitman? And how did privilege influence the investigation? JoAnn's story also sparked conversations about domestic violence. In 1983, few took threats like hers seriously. Was justice served? Could this happen today? Let us know your thoughts.